I was only 19 when I had Aaron. And I don't even mind saying this, he was an unplanned pregnancy, you know? So Billy and I, we had one decision to make, and I loved Billy, he loved me, and we got married. And about 8 months later, we had a baby. I was a kid raising a kid. We both were, you know, but we had fun doing it. I wouldn't take anything for that. You know, Tara came along 21 months later, and we thought we were finished as a family, and then 10 years later, we adopted Anna.
First time I met her, me and my buddy were riding around, and we pulled up in the IGA parking lot, and Karen was over there talking to some of her friends, you know. She came over to the car to talk to me. Actually, I asked my buddy to go over there and tell her I'd like to talk to her, and so he went over and told her. I asked her out, but she told me she had a date that night. And she said, but I'm not doing anything the next night. So Sunday night, that first Sunday night, we went out.
Our life was really interesting because I was raised as, you know, kind of a city girl, and Billy was raised on a farm. And so there was a lot of challenges to overcome, primarily because I felt like he was risking Aaron's life all the time. You know, Aaron was about 8 years old, I think, and, you know, he'd gone out to help Daddy work on the farm, you know. Billy had him on a four-wheeler with a rope tied to the four-wheeler and the other end of it tied to a tree he was cutting down. I hear this, put it in gear and pull, son, and I'm like, what? You know, we're all just a huge balance of our environment. I realized, you know, looking back, that was the chemistry that made Aaron just the perfect blend of, you know, rough and rugged, but also, you know, from my side, tender and, you know, tender and kind. I always knew Aaron was special. We all did. Well, he had just an incredibly passionate heart for justice and righteousness. He was always the guy who took up for the underdog in every situation. Then came 9/11. A few months later, he came home on his 21st birthday. Yeah, you heard me right. He came home for dinner with us on his 21st birthday. He sat down across the table and he said, Mom and Dad, I stopped by the Navy recruiter's office on the way home from work, and I joined the SEAL Challenge program. And I was just struck with this weird mixture of awe and fear, because now we were at war, and pride. You know, that just overrode all of it, is just how proud I was of him.
He decided very early on he wanted to be a Navy SEAL. One day we were out on the farm, Saturday afternoon, but this particular day there was a news flash that came on. The Army Rangers had done something somewhere. He said, Dad, I think I want to be an Army Ranger. And he wasn't very old then. He wasn't even a teenager then. I said, you know, there's one group that's probably a little above the Army Rangers, you know. Well, what is that? And I said, U.S. Navy SEALs. Told him about them. You know, I said, they do everything the Rangers do, but they also do it in the air and in water too, you know. And he started telling everybody he was going to be a Navy SEAL.
By the time he was in middle school, it had become clear that he was a pretty tenacious football player. It was the Thursday before the first Friday night football game of his senior year. He had obliterated the anterior cruciate ligament in his left knee and had torn every other ligament. He rehabbed the knee. We went and found the best surgeon possible, and like within 6 months he was running a 4.40. I mean, we bought parachutes, we bought running shoes, we bought everything to rehab that knee fast, because he realized football was gone, but now he was just getting prepared to get in that SEAL Challenge program. You know, a little bit of time went by, and just before school got out, he was playing a pickup game of basketball with some friends, and he came down wrong on the knee. He had obliterated the anterior cruciate ligament again. Went back in for the second surgery. The doctor came out about 2 hours in and said, Mr. and Mrs. Vaughn, there was nothing I could do. There's just nothing left, you know, in the knee to attach a new ACL to. He said Aaron is going to spend the rest of his life somewhat handicapped, and he'll never be able to do anything physical again without the use of a special brace. He was devastated. You know, he was 17 years old, and he had had this dream all of his life about going into the SEAL Challenge program as soon as he graduated high school. He was just like, okay, this is who I am, and I'm never going to be a Navy SEAL.
Obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center.
Remember, 9/11 changed everybody in the nation, and it changed something in him that none of us were aware of.
He came in supper that night and told his mom and I that he had joined the SEAL Challenge program. And immediately I said, son, you'll never make it, not with your knee like that. And, you know, his response was, Dad, if this is what God wants me to do, I'll be able to make it.
And I said, well, does the Navy know about your knee? And he's like, oh, no, or they'd have never let me in the program. He said, I've known all my life this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I was created for. God is telling me right now to go do it. And there's a wall, you know, that goes up at Coronado Island across the top of Reed's first time every time. It means they completed every single evolution required of them the first time they tried it. He got on that wall, which was ridiculous. And no one ever knew about the knee. He couldn't even tape it because it would have given his secret away. Of course, every young guy wants to be a little Rambo. You know, when you grow up on a farm, you want to play with all those cool weapons and all those cool ATVs and stuff like that. But the primary reason he wanted to do what he did was to take his place in history fighting for his country. Because he loved this country so much. I looked back on it and I thought about, our life and thought, you were prepared for everything by God.
Is taking responsibility for shooting down a U.S. helicopter. What do we know right now about this deadly incident?
That morning on August 6th, I had turned on Fox News, and not too long into the broadcast, they said that there was a chopper. Chopper had been shot down in Afghanistan. Didn't hit me too hard, just kind of nonchalantly said, Lord, just please don't let Aaron be on that chopper.
7:30, the phone rang. It was Billy. And Billy was on a trip. He was away from home, 3,500 miles away from home to be specific. I said, well, what is it, honey? And he said, well, listen, I don't want you to think that I'm saying this is it, but I've been up, for a few hours driving, and the news has come on that there was a helicopter shot down in Afghanistan last night. And he said, the more details they give, the more it feels like it could be Aaron's team.
31 American troops now dead after a NATO helicopter crashes overnight.
And there are reports this morning that most of them are U.S. Navy SEALs.
When we hung up, I called Tara, our oldest daughter, and asked her to come over and be with her mother. And she started crying, and I told her, there's nothing to worry about. I just want you over there with her mother because she's probably going to worry.
She walked in the door smiling, and the kids were smiling. And I said, what are you doing here? And she said, Dad told me to come over. And we started trying to reason together that surely it can't be him. It can't be him. We decided to call Kimberly's parents, and we didn't want to call Kimberly and get her involved in the emotion we were experiencing right now until we needed to, and hopefully we wouldn't need to. And then this time her father answered the phone. And I said, is Kimberly up yet? He said, Karen, it's bad. And I said, I know. And he said, no, listen to me, Karen. He said, Aaron was on the helicopter, and there were no survivors.
I heard the doorbell ring, and I remember thinking, oh, it's just a neighbor. And I came upstairs, and I saw my father opening the door, and men coming inside in uniform, and I just fell to my knees.
30 American troops, including 22 Navy SEALs. Among them, 30-year-old Aaron Vaughn, the father of a boy not yet 2, a daughter whose birth he witnessed just 8 weeks ago, and the husband of Kimberly.
I don't know how to describe it. Just like the oxygen had been sucked out of my lungs. Just everything went black. And I finally realized the phone was still in my hand. Tara took it from me, and she just said, "You're going to be all right, Mom." She
she was so strong. It was amazing. She was so strong. You know, she came in and sat down beside me and was just quiet, you know, for a little bit. And all of a sudden she looked at me and she said, "Do you want me to call Dad?" That was the first time it had dawned on me that I knew this horrible thing that was going to change all of us forever. And he didn't know. And I remember hearing her say, "Daddy, he's dead." She hadn't called him Daddy in 2 decades, you know.
And I said, it's just really weird to say this, but it's all I could say. I said, "Okay, baby, I'll call you right back," because I didn't know what to say.
Billy's flight got in. He had to take a red eye, and we're on our way home. And Billy said, "You want to go to church?" And I said, Are you serious? You want to?" He goes, I would like to.
I said, "Our family needs to worship." And we worshiped. In the time of the worst pain that I've ever had, it was very comforting. And I'll never forget when we walked into church, they were playing "How Great Thou Art." And I knew Aaron was there.
Aaron lived in pain. His greatest strength was his tenacity, you know, and I remember him explaining to me, and I try to live like this now because he was absolutely right. He said, "One thing I've learned is that pain is in your mind." He said, "So I'll fix things when I've got a good time to fix them, but now's not the time." I often say to people, if you think America's not the greatest country on earth, what you need to do is turn your television off, stop listening to what people are telling you, and go out and look around you. This is the land that he gave his life for. Drive by any playground on a Saturday afternoon and see children laughing and playing freely, celebrating, whether they realize it or not, the right that they have to be free, that nobody's oppressing them, that nobody's giving them times that they can be out and times they can't. Or drive by a church parking lot on a Sunday afternoon and see people worshiping whatever God they choose to and realize we're free, we're free. Also, I tell people, you know, next time you're having a backyard barbecue, for crying out loud, just stop for a second and look around at what you get to live, what kind of life you get to live, because we're free. And then also realize that when you're hurting, Americans are going to come to your rescue. That's who we are as a nation. I've witnessed it 1,000 or more times. We are a good people, and we do appreciate sacrifice. We do have a generation growing up that aren't being taught that as much as generations prior. It's amazing, like I talk to students, and when I'm done, they're coming up to me saying, "I've never thought about my freedom that way. I've never thought about how good it is to be an American. Thank you." All they need is to be reminded of what we're really like instead of be told how bad we are. The opportunities that I've had to share my faith, to share my story, to share Aaron's story, don't make any sense outside of the fact that God has created the opportunities and allowed it to be because He had a plan for me too. He gave His life to protect this country, and He was thankful that God had let Him do it. God provided Aaron with what he needed to do the impossible, and then He provided me with what I needed to do the impossible. My hope is that people live lives worthy of that level of sacrifice.